About 6 months ago, Netflix decided to cancel one of its adult animated shows called Inside Job. The show's premise was essentially, what if all the conspiracy theories out there were actually real, but just being covered up by a secret government agency? Inside Job runs with that premise in what many found to be an entertaining satire on both conspiracy theories and theorists themselves, as well as a really unique workplace comedy. The show was received well enough to receive renewal for a second season in June of 2022, ahead of the release of the second half of the first season of the show. But then, Netflix went back on their decision to renew the show, leaving myself, fans, and even people working on the show somewhat shell-shocked by the decision. Inside Job's situation was certainly a strange one, and now that the dust has settled, the reason behind Inside Job's cancellation has become a bit more clear. So today, I'm going to explain why Inside Job was canceled at Netflix, and why the decision to cancel the show is a much bigger deal than I initially thought. My name's Mr. Cow, let's get this underway. To understand Netflix's reasoning behind Inside Job's cancellation, we have to go back to the original order for the show. Originally, Netflix ordered 20 episodes of Inside Job that would be called the show's first season. The 20 episodes were to be split up and released in 2 equal parts. When the first part released in October of 2021, the show seemed to be received relatively well by critics. But here's where things get tricky. Netflix is notoriously stingy with both viewership information and audience retention statistics. Basically, Netflix won't tell consumers how many people watched the show unless it's worth mentioning in their eyes, i.e., it was a success of some sort. Which brings us to Netflix's top 10 lists. I'm sure many of you have seen Netflix's top 10 movies and TV show collections being updated weekly to show people what the hottest content on the platform is. It turns out that this collection is currently our best resource for determining whether or not a show at Netflix will see renewal or not. Looking back at the Netflix Top 10 TV English category collection from when the first part of Inside Job's first season released, we can see that Inside Job was number 9 out of 10 in its premiere week, sitting at over 21 million hours viewed. In the following weeks, Inside Job failed to make the top 10. However, another adult animated Netflix original premiered its 5th season just a week after Inside Job, Big Mouth. Big Mouth's 5th season also premiered at number 9 out of 10 in its first week, getting over 19.5 million hours viewed. The difference with Big Mouth's new season, though, is that the show managed to climb up to 5th place in its second week and then drop down to 10th place in its third. Big Mouth, in its 5th season, managed to stay in the top 10 for 3 weeks straight. Inside Job only managed to stay for 1 week, which apparently isn't that great in Netflix's eyes. Based on this information, I think it's safe to say that Inside Job's premiere did not live up to Netflix's expectations, especially when compared to Big Mouth. So, for the second part of Inside Job's first season, Netflix decided to cut 2 episodes from the order, in hopes of retaining more viewers. Now, this should all definitely be categorized as speculation, because Netflix has not confirmed that this is the actual case when it comes to Inside Job. But I think it is reasonable to deduce that Inside Job's 20 episode order being cut down to 18 after the first part of the first season released was due to the show not living up to the expectations that were set by other adult animated shows like Big Mouth. Netflix cares a great deal about completion rates of their TV shows. In an article from Paul Tassi at Forbes, it's shown just how big of a role completion rates play in getting your show renewed at Netflix. The lower the completion rate, the higher the chance the show gets canceled. Even if an insane amount of people watch the first 5 episodes of Inside Job, Netflix wouldn't feel compelled to renew the show unless the completion percentage for it was at least over 50%. and it seems like Inside Job's completion rate was high enough in this first part of its first season because the show was in fact renewed for a second season in June of 2022, before the second half of the first season had premiered. So despite Inside Job not beating Big Mouth Season 5, it seemingly was in a pretty good spot following its premiere in 2021, and Netflix cutting 2 episodes from the order wasn't a financial decision, but rather a strategic decision, because a show with an 8-episode season is more likely to be completed than one with 10. Netflix was seemingly trying to help Inside Job with this decision to cut 2 episodes, and in my personal opinion, I thought it made the pacing of Inside Job's second part much better. However, Inside Job wouldn't find its way into the top 10 TV show list with its second part, and it's likely that the show still struggled to retain its audience, even through a shorter 8-episode run. Everyone assumed a second season of the show was locked in, that there wouldn't be a situation where the crew behind Inside Job wouldn't get to make more episodes thanks to their renewal status. But this is where the final nail in the coffin for Inside Job was hammered in. Animation is really expensive and really time consuming. The fact that Inside Job didn't make the top 10 at all with its second part of season 1 most likely means the show also wasn't being completed by many people. So, even if there was a chance that Inside Job would find a larger audience in its second season, the money spent on producing that new season just wouldn't have been worth it in Netflix's eyes, and thus, Inside Job had its renewal reversed, and it was canceled. Now that we have a pretty good idea as to why Inside Job was canceled, it's time to talk about why this is a big deal. Netflix's current strategy for discovering new content is just about as cutthroat as it gets. Netflix isn't looking for the next cult classic or a pretty good workplace comedy. They are looking exclusively for the next Stranger Things, the next Squid Game, the next Dahmer documentary, basically the next mega show. Something that takes over not just Netflix, but social media, news discussions, workplace chatter, and essentially the world. In Netflix's letter to the shareholders for the first quarter of 2023, they made it abundantly clear that they aren't interested in any kind of slow burn. They want success, and they want it immediately upon premiere of the show. The letter states, "As our Netflix top 10 lists show, people have very diverse tastes. To please our members, we need to connect them with a title they'll love in that moment, whether it's an elevated drama, comedy, action-adventure, or reality show, versus simply engagement for engagement's sake. The more we can consistently deliver the right titles to the right audiences at the right time, the more our members will choose Netflix when they next turn on their TV or recommend our service to their friends." Netflix wants their new shows and movies to connect with a massive audience in the shortest amount of time possible, or as they put it, in that moment. It's not good enough for people to watch and engage with a show anymore at Netflix. They have to fall in love with it immediately if they want that show to get renewed for more seasons. This approach is a surefire way to create a lot of really great shows that only last for one season, and occasionally it will create super hits like Stranger Things. But at the end of the day, Netflix is willing to kill quality content like Inside Job simply because it didn't satisfy them fast enough. And that's why Inside Job's renewal reversal is such a big deal. It doesn't matter if a show is good anymore at Netflix. It doesn't matter if a lot of people really like it. Netflix wants instant gratification for its business decisions, and it's holding their subscribers hostage to get this gratification. In Netflix's ideal world, their customers are just another piece of their marketing approach. they're putting the burden onto fans of their content to spread the words about shows they like, rather than actually spending time and money marketing their shows themselves. This approach by Netflix is going to destroy the chances of a lot of great content finding an audience because they aren't given enough time to do so. But luckily, this is an issue that will sort itself out. And in fact, it's already sorting itself out. Netflix, like most streaming services, gets subscribers through must-watch content. People show up for the shows, not the brand when it comes to streaming services. The more original programming Netflix cancels after one season, the more their platform gets associated with not having a high quantity of must-watch content. So this approach can only last so long for Netflix, because at the end of the day, it's about content. And shows like Inside Job are good content for streaming services. Netflix is focusing too much on the numbers and not enough on the quality of the content they're putting out. And that is a recipe for disaster. Some shows take a little bit more time to take off. Imagine if The Office had been canceled after its somewhat poorly received first season. Imagine if BoJack Horseman had been canceled after its first season got off to a somewhat slow start. The fact that Netflix is being this cutthroat with their own original content makes me think that Netflix does not have faith in many of its artists that they're hiring to create content for them. The less faith Netflix has in its artists, the more cutthroat their business practices become with a lot of these new TV shows. And that's why this cancellation is such a big deal, because it tells me that Netflix doesn't care about their artists enough to give them the money and time to create shows that find their footing, find their audiences, and turn into successes. Thank you all very much for watching this video. I'm off my script now, I'm just in rambling territory, and I like to use this time to thank all of you for watching not only this video, but for all my videos and supporting the channel over the last few months. The channel has been doing better than it ever has before. Seriously, better than I've ever seen it do, which is really, really great, and I'm making content that I feel like is better than anything I've made before consistently. I'm taking a little bit more time with it. I'm not forcing myself into a schedule. I'm just picking stuff I want to talk about, building up as many thoughts as I can, writing out an entire script, and then putting that into a video and just editing the crap out of it. It's been a whole process. I've been spending way more time on videos. I've been thinking a lot more about them, and it's clear that it's connecting with more people, and I'm very, very grateful that many of you are coming out and watching these videos. And that's all I have to say on the matter. I'm all pumped up from talking about Inside Job and its cancellation. I had a lot of strong feelings about Netflix that I've been thinking about over the last 6 months since Inside Job got canceled. So I'm going to leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. And I will see you next time. My voice cracked. Goodbye.